It's time for our weekly review of Starship Discovery Season 3. We're already on the second episode of the series so far and learning more about our new environment of the 32nd century, so let's dive into it. Hello everyone, my name is Captain Jack and welcome to Trek Central. The second episode of Starship Discovery Season 3 is titled Far From Home, with being written by Alan McElroy, Chris Silvestri and Anthony Manville. Orlando Sinwar has returned to direct this episode after directing the premiere episode of Season 3. In case you're wondering where to watch this season, then don't worry, we've got you covered. Episode 2 of Season 3 is online and watchable right now via CBS All Access and CTV Sci-Fi/Crave, but it will be available internationally on October 16th via Netflix. So heads up if you've not seen this episode yet, as spoilers will be in this review. You've been warned. To keep up to date with our Star Trek Discovery Season 3 reviews and related videos such as our news and theories, make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video. We're also streaming live on every Sunday at 9 PM BST to discuss our thoughts as we invite you to come along and share your opinions. I do hope to see you there. Alright, let's explore the future. Now before we jump into the episode breakdown analysis, I have some initial thoughts to share with you. Personally, I found this episode a lot stronger than the premiere episode. To me, seeing the Discovery under threat and the entire crew coming to terms with their new environment and situation, it was fantastic. Not only are the crew under pressure, we also see Saru coming to terms with being the guardian of his crew, the captain to steer the ship. Now he's in full command, and you can already see his competition in the form of Philippa Georgiou, who is not pleased at the new situation at all. As we'll dive into the specifics of this in a moment, the sequence of the crew working together as the Discovery crashes on the surface was fantastic. In the previous two seasons of the show, I think this might have been, the most we've got out of a bridge crew working together so far. Yes, there have been other moments. This scene was just alone. It felt really strong for me. Honestly, the whole episode just extruded like Star Trek ambience and feels in a way. Is that like the best way to describe it? I don't know. Anyway, let's jump into the breakdown. We start this episode with the Discovery being in quite a bad shape. It exits the wormhole and begins to descend towards a planet, a different one from that of Heim, which Burnham landed on in the previous episode. This planet seems to have a lot of floating rocks in the atmosphere, as the crew works extremely well together to navigate the new hostile environment, with Commander Saru taking charge of the situation as the bridge officers manage to slow their descent towards a glacier. Once the ship's crashed on the glacier and safely landed, Lieutenant Detmer seems to be in shock from the injuries she sustained, as even though she is celebrated by the rest of the bridge crew, it is only until Oa realises something is up and makes sure her friend is alright and that she should head to sickbay. This seems to be some sort of minor plot point in this episode, with Kayla Detmer seemingly experiencing something strange. Whether this be damage to a neural implant or something else, it's currently unknown, and hopefully it might be explored later on in the season. Given she has a prominent role in the Season 3 trailer, or at least the extended one, I have a feeling there's something else to this, so we'll have to keep an eye on it. Now, the Discovery itself is very much inoperable and can't fly or call for help or get in contact with Commander Burnham. So raises the morale of the crew well and gets the officers working to fix the ship. Commander Jet Reno mentions how her time on Hoafe, the ship the Discovery found her on in Season 2, will help them repair the ship, which I thought was a nice touch to show how her experiences have helped her, and also a good callback to Season 2. We learn from Lieutenant Bryce, the communications chief aboard Discovery, that the translator for the communication ray is completely destroyed, and will need to be replaced. Now, if the ship had enough rubidium, this would be a simple task. We do get the creepy information that Georgiou had stomped Leland to pieces, just to make sure he was dead apparently, though I'm sure it's probably for her pleasure as well. I'm not going to argue with her anytime soon. We also get to catch up with Paul Stamets in a very neat scene where he's still in a coma and the camera only focuses on him with some small medical noise in the background. As soon as he's brought out of his coma by Dr. Hugh Culber, the catacomb of noises and sickbay is brought to life as it's filled with injuries from the transit through the wormhole and the crash landing. Mr. Saru stands his ground against Georgiou, which is great to see him standing up for what he believes in, and it says that he'll go with Ensign Tilly to barter with the locals of Rubidium to repair their broken translator. It's interesting, yet makes perfect sense that Georgiou cares for Michael Burnham, but also the crew of the Discovery and how important it is to find Commander Burnham as well. While Saru and Tilly navigate out into the cold remains, Commander Jet Reno and Stamets are forced to work together to fix the broken EPS conduit, and I must say I love these characters interacting. They both have the same personality and don't realise how similar they actually are, and also are both severely injured, with Stamets just having come out of his coma and Jet's back still requiring careful movement. Honestly, it's like an old married couple at this rate. Commander Saru and Ensign Tilly have a touching moment while out on the planet, until they see a random stranger in the distance in front of them. Of course, the natural Starfleet thing to do is to follow this total stranger into their own domain, because exploration and all. I'm just making a joke there. The glacier which the USS Discovery crashed onto turns out to be some sort of parasitic ice that grows in the shade, so the Discovery will need to get airborne soon otherwise, or it will be entombed by the ice. We learn that Commander Narn stayed on board the Discovery to honour Arium, a touching moment and kinda makes sense considering Narn was the one to press the button to jettison Arium in Season 2 of Discovery. It's great to know why she actually stayed on the ship there, and hopefully Commander Narn serves to be a central point throughout Season 3. She sort of doesn't fit in, and sort of does fit in at the same time. She's in a bit of a complicated space, but I'm excited to see more of her. Meanwhile, Saru and Tilly get teleported to a bar, which seems to be the home of a number of Cordonites. It seems they're workers on the safari before it was rendered inoperable. Now they rely on couriers, like our new character Burke, who was introduced in episode 1 of Season 3. It's interesting to see Cordonites actually in this series. The last time we actually saw them was in Star Trek Enterprise, where it was actually introduced to Star Trek canon. So having them included in Discovery is a nice little touch, and those Enterprise fans like myself really do appreciate it. Now we just need some faith of the heart. While Cal, one of the Cordonites, works on repairing the Rubidium transdata, he uses programmable matter to replicate the broken equipment. Obviously this is completely new technology to the Discovery crew, and also us the viewers at the end of the day. We also learn that Zareh is the current courier to this colony of miners. He actually killed the last courier to take this route, blew up the mining equipment, and uses the helplessness of the miners to profit for himself. As the miners can no longer provide for themselves or barter for themselves, they have to rely on Zareh to bring them the stuff they need to survive. Of course, he does actually later turn up, and we get sort of like a cowboy-style entrance to the scoundrel terrorizing the town, coming through the saloon doors with the spurs on his shoes clicking. Zareh very much looks like a part of a scoundrel and plays a part as well. He even talks like an old-style scoundrel with a dry, low voice. Jake Weber, the actor portraying Zareh, is actually fantastic in this role and really pulls it off really well. Zareh is even able to deduce that Tilly and Saru come from the future from the readings of a wormhole, as well as requiring the Coordinates to repair the translator, which would be easily repaired if they had tech from this century. For repairing the translator, Zareh decides to kill Cal in a very slow fashion using his weapon. The modern weapon we get to see here is an interesting design. It almost seems old-fashioned, but obviously this might not be the latest tech at the time, but it's certainly new compared to Discovery's tech. Now here's an interesting moment. Zareh talks about the Vadrash, which are a faction introduced in the short trek Calypso. Vadrash is a syncope of Federation, and refers to a faction that at least values Federation tech and information, or is the Federation itself. Personally, I'm fond of the theory and idea that Vadrash came from an isolated cut-off section of the Federation after the burn, which would have pervaded the ideals of the Federation. This could be an interesting enemy for Discovery in Season 3. Keep an eye out for my video coming later this week exploring how our new characters might tie into this faction and what they might be doing in Season 3 of the show. While this is going down in the saloon bar, we actually catch up with Jet and Stamets, as Stamets is working his way through the Jeffries tube to the damaged conduit. Commander Jet uses one of the drones used on the Harafu to assist Stamets and follow him with some nice guiding advice. Sarcastic guiding advice. While this is happening, Commander Narn finds that Jojo has disappeared from a ship, and I wonder where she's found herself. Yep, we cut to Jojo being thrown into the bar by Zareh's two goons. No one should underestimate Jojo, however, which I'm sure Zareh will regret, and he later does. He starts shooting Jojo, but it doesn't help him, as she quickly disposes of the guards, and Zareh, with the help of the Coordinates and also Saru, who uses threat ganglia to efficiently display and take out one of the intruders. I am glad they haven't forgotten about Saru's ganglia. That was the whole point of episode 1 in the original Star Trek Discovery Season 1, and also brought up in Season 2 for Saru's sort of spotlight episode. Back on the Discovery as we near the end of this episode, Commander Stamets managed to push past the pain and repairs the conduit, which repairs power throughout the ship, meaning the Discovery is back to full operation capacity. Saru managed to get Jojo to stand down before killing Zareh, and allows the Coordinates a chance to decide what they do with the unarmed Zareh, and ultimately they do decide to let him go. Though I'm sure Zareh won't hold his own up against the parasitic ice on the world, and that's what they kind of say to him. They're letting him go, but he's probably going to die anyway. Now, the remaining Coordinate gives Saru a personal transporter, a new technology we learned about in episode 1 of Season 3. I'd say this is a good reward for saving these people from a tyrant. At the end of the episode, the group gets back to the Discovery and manages to get the communications back online with a repaired translator. The ship isn't fully restored, but it's as good as it'll get for the moment. Detmer is still a little shaken, but is convinced by Saru to try and get the ship off the ground. In the end, the Discovery is actually rescued by a tractor beam, and of course, I wonder who it is, and yes, they're saved by Commander Michael Burnham, who's been waiting a whole year with Book aboard the Nautilus. She has a brand new hairstyle, which is amazing, and the crew are happy to see her. The episode ends here. Okay, so some final review thoughts for us on Season 3, Episode 2. As stated previously, this episode felt quite western in some regards, yet still kept in the sci-fi aesthetic with the problems of the ship mainly focusing on Jet Reno and Paul Stamets. The villain of Zareh being the small-time villain terrorizing a town as he walks into the saloon was just great. Obviously, Star Trek has done western numerous times, with originally being sold as a wagon ride through space, but I feel this episode was able to port the western into sci-fi, whereas other episodes put the sci-fi in western, if that makes sense. Sure, we visit Deadwood on the holodeck, but it's mostly a western episode with those little sci-fi flourishes, where this is very much a sci-fi with those western flourishes, if that makes sense. It's basically a western in space. This episode gave us a lot of focus to some characters of Discovery we haven't spent time with before, especially that of Lieutenant Kayla Detmer, the helm officer of Discovery. I definitely appreciate this, and it gives Detmer some more character development to her. Even in the very first scene on the planet, we get her dealing with her shock and being comforted by her friend Owo. This is the type of thing I wanted Season 2 of Discovery to embrace more, the relationships between characters and get to flesh them out, and this episode definitely gave us a lot of that. From Stamets to Reno, Tilly to Saru, and Detmer to Owo, the personal interactions within this episode was great, and just gave us more connections with our characters. Hopefully this sort of character development continues throughout the third season of Discovery, as getting to know more of our characters would be fantastic. It seems to be Season 3's tradition now to bring back legacy aliens from previous Trek series. We got Lurians or Cardassians in the first episode, and then we get Cordonites in episode 2. I wonder what episode 3 will bring, but it really makes sense that the world will seem much more lived in, and it's a great way to bring these alien characters yet still show how different they are from when we last saw them in the previous Star Trek iterations. I said it at the start of this video, and I'll say it again. This episode was way more enjoyable for me. The essence of Star Trek is more present in this episode alone, more so than episode 1 of Season 3. That's not a dig or a slight against the first episode, I personally just found this one more enjoyable and entertaining at the end of the day. Either way, I'm looking forward to what episode 3 does to tie up the year between Burnham and the USS Discovery being separated. That wraps up our weekly review of Star Trek Discovery Season 3. Once again, please do let us know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section. We look forward to reading them, and hopefully you've got some great things to share with us. Of course, if you're new around here, then make sure to keep up to date with the latest Star Trek news and information by hitting that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can of course follow us on our social media for the latest updates on the Star Trek universe, such as Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, and you can also join our community Discord server down below. All these links are available in the video description. For now, I've been Captain Jack, and I'll be back with another episode of you this time next week. In the meantime, live long and prosper, my friends.